for coming, and thank you, Super Student, for introducing me. As a super teacher, I have learnt and understood a lot of information about different philosophers and different educators to help inform my super teaching. Nodding suggests that the aims of education is to have deep why questions around education and the curriculum. She believes without these why questions and queries, the educator is lazy and would be a danger to neglect the thoughts behind the why. I agree. Noddings is a key influence in my personal philosophy for education. For one, she is a strong believer that happiness and education are interdependent on one another. As a teacher, there's nothing I want more than my students to be happy and enjoy their school time. Have you ever heard of Dewey? Well, I agree alongside a lot of Dewey's views. Education is to prepare students for their future with considerations of the skills and understandings necessary to interact, participate, and learn in the super world today. I believe education is important for a person to live a happy and healthy life. I believe education should be fun, engaging, and interactive to inspire students in becoming lifelong super learners. To do this, I build strong relationships with my super students and create engaging lessons with a supportive super class environment. As a constructivist super teacher, my lessons are based around Piaget and Hinchy's theory of letting the learners construct their own cognitive development through child-centered learning and enabling my students to construct their own super knowledge. As a teacher, it is not my duty to relay information for students to repeat and remember. Rote learning is a no for super teaching. In my classroom, I may be super, but I am not the only expert in my room, and the learners are not the only learners. I do not believe students are just empty vessels, waiting for me to pour knowledge into them. I want my students to be active learners. I want them to not only use the experiences I create for them to enable effective learning, but to also create their own experiences. As a teacher, I am a facilitator of learning and not the expert. Similarly, Comenius agrees that through student-centered learning, education will become more effective than rote learning. To create this brilliant, amazing, student-centered experiences in my lessons, I need to form strong relationships with my students. My top priority as a teacher is to build strong relationships in order to learn all about their funds of knowledge and interests. By building strong relationships with your students, you are able to understand what pre-experiences, conceptions, and knowledge they have with them in their virtual school. As a super teacher, you are able to learn all about your super students. What would be the point of teaching if you didn't teach to challenge each super student's power and enable your super students' differentiated abilities to grow and develop in your super classroom? I cater for all my super students by using as many Gardner's multiple intelligences as I can. I ensure to cater for diverse needs through using a variety of methods within my lessons, such as many visual aids, written sheets, verbal communication in the form of instruction and discussions, music, songs to help engage, as well as body movement to keep my super learners active.
I love learning. Please, could you tell me some of your super teaching? Teacher Club!
Thanks, super student. I can show you heaps of examples of how I do this within my teaching. As a teacher, we have to follow 7 standards. These standards are called the Australian Professional Standards for Teaching, and I'll go through 3 of these sub-strands for you today. The first standard I'm going to go over today is Standard 1, specifically Standard 1.5, differentiate teaching to meet the specific learning needs of students across a full range of abilities. One way I differentiate my super teaching for all my different super learners is to use open-ended tasks to extend and enable all learners. The use of open-ended tasks in my classroom enables my super students to answer questions and challenge their own powers, no matter what abilities they may have. I use a range of open-ended tasks and questions to help challenge the different abilities within my classroom. I use this for both numeracy and literacy. Leidecker studies revealed that open-ended tasks promote curiosity, provide opportunities for students to wrestle with difficult ideas, to revise their thinking, and demonstrate respect for all ideas by encouraging contributions from all students. I don't know about you, but in my super classroom, that's exactly what I want. Alongside open-ended questions comes the idea of inquiry-based learning. in which students serve as active agents of learning, capable of constructing meaning from information rather than passive recipients of content matter. This goes alongside Piaget's and Hinch's theory of a constructivist teacher. Here is an example of an open-ended maths task I used in my classroom to understand what knowledge students had of time, decimals, percentages, fractions, angles, lines, and whatever else they could think of. On the board, we went over some examples of what they could write. I then gave them 60 minutes to complete the task. Here are some examples of students' work. As you can see, this task was able to show different abilities within my classroom. It showed students who didn't really know anything about percentages or decimals to students who really knew their stuff. And this helped me as a teacher learn about all the individual students in my classroom and inform my own teaching to later on differentiate again my teaching to inform their needs. The next standard I'm going to talk to you about is the standard 3, plan for and implement effective teaching and learning. Specifically, 3.2, plan, structure, and sequence learning programs. As a super teacher, it is important to plan, structure, and sequence lessons that enable students to learn about certain concepts and obtain certain learning goals. An effective way of creating learning programs is to follow the 5E model for inquiry-based approach that is used for science. I was able to use this approach for a grade 3-4 class. First off, my partner and I were able to identify the 4 key concepts that we wanted our students to learn. Our first concept was the Earth's surface is made of soil, rocks and water. Our second concept, natural rocks form in different ways. Our third concept, some rocks have visible crystals. And our fourth concept and final concept, some rocks are stronger than others, varying strengths and resistance to where determines their use. We were then able to create a unit plan, and from this unit plan create a sequence of 6 lessons, with the ending lesson being a celebration day of all their hard work they had achieved. Next, you will see some photos of our fun and engaging lessons that we created. The students really did enjoy learning all about rocks, and we believe they have gone home with some new knowledge. Our first lesson, we investigated what kind of rocks we see in our schoolyard. We went on a fun rock hunt. Our second lesson was all about how the rock cycle works, how the rocks melt down into magma, then form igneous rock, then form sedimentary rock, then form metamorphic rock. We used chocolates and marshmallows to melt, and we used a grater to grate the rocks, and they could all make their own little rock cycle. Students also loved the idea of eating the chocolate after. Our third lesson, we were able to create crystals. They really loved creating crystals using borax powder. They actually went home on the weekend and came back next Friday with all these amazing crystals that they had made, and they told us that they had explained to all their friends, how they made these crystals. Our fourth lesson was testing what rocks are harder and how these rocks are harder, and maybe why. Students really did get involved in the celebration day. They loved showing off all their new knowledge, especially their crystals, and they couldn't get over the fact that they got to eat chocolate. Address Standard 4, create and maintain supportive and safe learning environment. This is an important one. Specifically, 4.3, manage challenging behaviour. As a super teacher, it is important to have a super classroom filled with super attentive learners. The best way to have a super classroom is to develop and clearly communicate classroom behavioural expectations. Each school should have their own method to identify and manage students who can show negative behaviour. Currently, I participate in a Tribe program. Tribes is a learning community that creates a safe and caring environment which super students can thrive in. It is implemented as a whole school approach, and each tribe group has their own philosophy that adheres to the school's core values. It helps us super teachers build strong relationships with our community through activities run every Monday morning, and also helps manage our behaviours as we have a tribal agreement that we can continuously look back on if students forget. Another great way for behaviour management is to create a mission statement for the classroom that we can constantly refer back to. In my placement this year, I was able to incorporate my opinions into the classroom mission statement, and ours said, in 608, we will demonstrate leadership and be good role models. We will follow our tribe agreements and remain positive at all times. We will do our personal best and encourage others to do the same. We will be hardworking and put in effort to meet our goals. Our classroom will be a safe and fun learning place. In my own classroom practices, I always refer back to our tribal agreement and our mission statement. I also use positive reinforcement for positive behaviour within our classroom because I feel this works best with these particular students. I use a system called the Gotcha Card system. Students are able to get a Gotcha Card when they show positive behaviour. The Gotcha Card goes into a draw and the winner gets drawn each week. Prizes vary from getting the teacher's chair, sitting next to your friend for the day, having a snack in class, or using the computer or iPad when it's not time to use it. Using positive reinforcement is a great way to create positive behaviour. By pointing out all the good things the students are doing within the classroom and leaving all the negative things behind gives a sense of pride and respect. And I believe it really does create a better working environment than just constantly saying, Daniel, stop talking, Daniel, sit here. You say instead, Cassie, you are doing such a great job. Thank you so much for putting up your hand instead of talking.
You're the best super teacher. Now we could we do some breakdance?
Of course.
I am Ari. I played super student.
I am Melissa Gregg and I played Super Teacher.